Okay, so tonight I'm here to talk about town meeting in general, but specifically to talk about the solid waste enterprise proposal. So before we get started on that, I'll ask, does anybody have any questions about any of the other articles proposed for town meeting besides the schools, because the schools are giving their own public information sessions, and I really don't want to contradict or speak for them in any way.
Mark Hopewell, I just had a question. I think it's Article 17. This is near and dear to my heart. It's about the town accepting to allow permanent, intermittent, or call firefighters to be credited with full-time service for the purpose of calculating retirement benefits. Does that mean any call firefighter or any call firefighter that becomes a permanent firefighter?
Any call firefighter.
Is it retroactive?
I believe that it is. It's something that the communities around us have all accepted, and West Boylston is next in line to accept it, so that call firefighters, whether they're responding to a call in West Boylston or another community, they're all under the same provisions.
So I had 40 years as a call firefighter here in town. Does that mean I'm eligible for something?
I don't know the answer to that, but I will find out.
I would like to know.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Yes, please.
Okay. John Lukács. I guess just going back to the town meeting in May, this thing was proposed and it was the basis, the override that took place. It was said that the override was going to cover, the majority of the override was going to cover the costs of trash services for this year, but that next year that money was intended to be used for the school department. Now, most of it.
I don't believe you are correct up until that point. I was at all of the meetings and certainly participating in those conversations. The money that was the $725,000 that was approved as the Proposition 2.5 override. Year one, we by law were required to use that money to fund trash expenses.
Well, a portion of it,
right?
Not all
yeah.
of it.
So, yes, the items that we had that we had listed as covered under the $725,000.
Right.
We were very clear that the following year that money becomes part of the general appropriation and would be used to offset and pay for town and school expenses.
Right. But the biggest increase for next year is going to be in school, because the people at those meetings made a point of saying that the school was underfunded. They'd already cut people. So I think in all likelihood, most of the money, that $725,000, is going to be reallocated to the school department.
So we have not received a single budget proposal. So
I understand, and that gets to my point. My point is, how can the town make a determination as to whether that's reasonable or not unless the school department makes public the school budget, a line item school budget? My understanding is, I think I asked a question and I was told that they don't typically publish that. So how can we?
So we absolutely, I'm hearing your question, I'm hearing your concern. We know that we are facing approximately $800,000 deficit for the fiscal year 2027.
Sure.
That was part of our budget presentation in May.
Mm-hmm.
So that number has not changed. That number has not decreased by any stretch. The biggest budget unknown that we have right now is health insurance. We know that those increases are going to be astronomical because we are watching the communities around us working through their numbers. That will be the biggest tell as to where that $800,000 goes. And there is a component of that health insurance that is owned by the school, and there's a portion of that health insurance that is owned by the town, because we're both covering employees that receive health insurance. But for sure, that is something that I've heard before, that people would like to see a more detailed school budget, and we can certainly work on that for the May town meeting. It is not part of the discussion for the fall town meeting.
Okay, it's not part, but when you guys put together the budget for the following year,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't that discussion, and don't you bring the school committee into the finance committee and they present a school budget at that particular point in time?
We all participate in those conversations, yes.
So why can't that documentation be put on the website?
Yeah.
At that point, at the finance
Yeah.
committee
Yeah.
meeting, so people
Yeah.
have time to digest what's
Yeah.
in it?
I'm hearing what you're saying, and we will certainly find out what we can do to make that budget more accessible to residents.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for bringing it up. I appreciate that. So tonight, so if there's no other questions on the warrant is pretty straightforward, and it's posted on the website, and the motions which get into some of the dollar amounts will be posted by the end of the week in draft form. So stay tuned for more information on the warrant in general. But I know that the majority of people would like to know more about this proposal for solid waste to create an enterprise fund. That is, it'll be article number 4. So the first article will be reports from various boards and committees. The second article will be the prior fiscal year bills. Article 3 will be the school feasibility study, and then Article 4 will be the solid waste article. And why am I doing this? Why am I subjecting myself and all of you to this? In May, I asked you to support the override, understanding that it was an ask and a half. We specifically tied that ask to the trash, asking that if you support the override, we could move forward with signing a contract for 5 years with Republic to continue the curbside collection portion of the trash. At that time, I did say that I would use all my available faculties and resources to come back with a plan that would make sense from a fiscal responsible position, as well as an option for residents to be in a place where you will not see trash as a override political carrot going forward. So the actual article language that you'll see on your town meeting warrant is straight out of the Mass General laws. There is no financial commitment with this. It is simply adopting the MGL that authorizes the creation of an enterprise fund for solid waste. It's very straightforward, a little deceiving, I understand, but this is the legal language. Why do towns in general create enterprise funds? For you have an enterprise fund for your sewer. You have an enterprise fund for your electricity. Other towns have them for transfer stations. It's an opportunity to create a fair cost distribution so that only those who are using the service are paying for the service. When it's under the levy, when it's in your budget, in your general budget, you're paying for that trash service whether you use it or not. And we know that only 2,458 households are actually eligible for trash removal in the town of West Boylston, and there are 3,200 residences. So the difference between the 32 and the 24, those individuals are not eligible for trash, but they are still paying for it through their property tax bill. So this shifts the burden away from them and puts it on those who are actually using the service. Also, residents who use the pay-as-you-throw bags, this will help you control your monthly cost. I like to look at this as similar to your water bill. When the water district sends you a bill, there's a minimum use charge. That minimum use is for the opportunity to go into your kitchen, turn your tap handle, and there's the water. How long you let that water run is going to be equivalent to the pay-as-you-throw bags. So it's kind of backwards language, but if you use the less trash you throw away, the fewer bags you're going to be required to use, and therefore your overall cost is less. However, there will still be a minimum fee that we'll get to in another minute here. Reduces stress on town finances. Reduces stress on town administrator. This will remove $700,000 in the annual trash from the FY27 projected budget, reducing that $800,000 projected deficit that we just spoke about by a significant amount. Creates a dedicated funding source for trash, and it protects the service from budget cuts or override debates. This is the, and I know you're going to all roll your eyes, this is the win for residents in that this never becomes something that we can cut from the budget or that we come back and say we need an override to fund, because it becomes something that you, as the ratepayer, as the owner of this enterprise fund, are solely responsible for its funding source. And then there's my favorite, the environmental opportunities here, that we're going to keep our commitment to reducing the amount of trash that we throw away. We're living in a society where Amazon is more popular than ever, and this certainly goes a long way to continue to encourage waste reduction and recycling efforts. Supports programs. So maintaining that pay-as-you-throw, that has been a controversial and a subject that we can certainly talk more about. Why are we moving to carts in a fee-based program, and why is the town still going to keep the pay-as-you-throw bags? That is the single biggest opportunity that we have to maintain our costs. We know that our tonnage, about 1,500 tons a year of trash is thrown away in the town of West Boylston. Our current rate, and we'll get more into rates in a minute, is about $86 a ton. Our new tonnage rate is going to be $125 a ton. We know that communities that get rid of their pay-as-you-throw programs see an increase in tonnage of between 40 and 60%. So you're looking at a significant increase to the overall cost of this program if we get rid of the pay-as-you-throw bags. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but we just have to go with the data that we have and trust that this is the model that we want to maintain for the town of West Boylston. So let's get into it. The town will have, town residents that participate in this program will get a new utility bill from the town of West Boylston. That bill will likely be issued with your sewer bill. We're proposing an annual cost of $360 for the service. This includes the collection and disposal. And that equals about $90. Well, if we can keep the 360, even that's math I can follow. $90 a quarter. So we would be billing you that every 3 months. Taking a look at what goes into that $360, you have the cost of the collection, cost of disposal. We have 2 separate contracts for those 2 services. Republic manages the collection and Casella manages the disposal. We'll have some capital expenses, and then we have our indirect costs, which is billing and salary. Here are the collection costs that we expect to be, that are in the exact contract that you authorized with the override. These are the contract numbers for the next 4 years. FY31, which would be year 5 of this program, we would have to negotiate a new contract, whether it be with Republic or another collector. Those are some big numbers. And certainly not something that is maintaining equity with the 2.5% that we're allowed to increase taxes by every year. Those are 5% escalators. We know that our disposal costs are going from $86 a per ton to $120 in FY27, $125 in '28, and in '29 we'll be paying $130 per ton. If we look at the amount of tonnage that we've done historically, FY24, we paid $124 to dispose of our trash. FY25, we paid $131,000. FY26, here we go with the fact that our cost on January 1st will go to $120 per ton. So that number jumps by $30,000. FY27, I mean, you start looking at these numbers, and this is what I'm looking at as I'm looking at how to fund your general budget. These are going to be significant increases. Residents will be required to continue to use the green bags. There are no cost increases proposed for the bags. We'll maintain the $8 for the small bags and $18 for the large bags. We know that we estimate about $200,000 worth of revenue from the sale of those bags, and we know that they cost us about $85,000 to produce. So the net enterprise revenue that will include in the offset to those expenses is $115,000 per year. Capital costs. The contract that we have with the Republic Services is requiring that as of July 1, 2026, we will have carts for the curbside collection. We are estimating, using the state contract, $350,000 for that expense. We know that our one-time billing setup cost will be about $12,500. Those are non-reoccurring costs.
You say we're going to get carts. Are you saying that's for the recycling part of it, or are you saying that
Yep.
just for the
Yep.
recycling? In
Nope,
other words,
nope. There'll be 2 sets of carts. I've got that in the next slide.
okay.
Yep. Yep. But promised. We are anticipating purchasing the 96-gallon recycling carts. Those will cost the town $60 per cart. And the 64-gallon solid waste carts we know will cost us about $55 per cart. There is a grant that we can apply for, and we have every intention to apply for, that will offset the cost of the recycling carts, $15 per cart. So potentially we could reduce the $60 by the $15. However, until I have that money in hand, I'm budgeting for the $60. The billing costs, costs that we consider the indirect, which would include postage, paper, ink, toner, and the people to manage it. We are looking at costs starting at $37,000, and I've put a 5% escalator on those over the next 4 years. So when all of this shakes, I'm going to go to the next slide first, but so when we shake all this out, when we line our expenses up against our revenues, I can project with a great deal of certainty that for 4 3/4 years, a $30 per month fee, presuming 2,200 people participate in the program, will sustain this program for 4 years and 3/4. We do go into a slight deficit in the fifth year, the fourth quarter of the 5th year, by $6,000. However, we do anticipate that because I've put the minimum monthly fee at $30 and anticipate that there will be no increases for those 5 years, the intention is that we'll build up a little retained earnings. Retained earnings is basically the difference between the amount of money that the program costs to operate and the amount of revenues that we anticipate taking in. I'll show you that on the next slide. But we will always want a little retained earnings to buy replacement carts and manage the program for capital. So we anticipate having those retained earnings that will maintain that fifth year, fourth quarter without an increase in cost. What happens in that year 6 is something that we'll have to address when we get there. Again, going back to the costs, to the numbers I showed you earlier, collection and disposal, those costs are not going down. But with the current method and model, which I have here, you can see that we remain solvent throughout. That's a lot of lines. I don't expect, but we'll have this available, and you can check my math. And you can see at the end, FY31, there's that $6,000. How are we going to roll this out? So presuming that everybody that comes to town meeting, or at least a majority of you, feel that this is a positive step forward and that you agree that this is the best way to manage our solid waste for the next millennium. In November and January, the select board would have the responsibility to review and adopt policy. That policy is going to basically state who owns the carts, what happens if a cart gets damaged, who do residents call when they have a concern, how does the customer service portion work. We know we'll have some issues where we have some accountability, where we're going to be having to monitor the pay-as-you-throw bags. Now that they'll be inside of a cart, that will be more challenging. We'll be working with the Republic. They have cameras and GPS monitors that will provide the town with reports. So that all of those sort of program details will be something that the select board will be reviewing as part of their policy of how this program gets managed, and they would be approving that fee. Again, I put the asterisk next to the $30 because I'm not the one who actually sets the fee. The select board has that responsibility. Public education begins. We will put out our first mailing, which will go to all residents. We will be running this program as an opt-out. So what that means is that all eligible users will be presumed to want to participate in the program, and we will provide you with information about how to notify the town if you are going to choose not to participate. So you're in unless you say you're out. That creates a significant less amount of accounting and workload on town staff, and it also presumably creates less work on you because you don't have to do anything. You just have to wait for me to show up with your cart. So we'll make sure that that mailing goes out with all of those specifics, and meanwhile, staff will be very busy creating the billing and the account maintenance that is the next step. You had a question?
Yes. There's no mandatory, Gary Peterson,
Hi.
there's no mandatory,
No.
and I can always opt out after I
Yeah.
decide to opt in, and then I can opt back in again, so I
You
can
can.
pretty
You
much
can.
do whatever I want.
You can do whatever you want. So to answer the question about it being mandatory, we did double check that with council and also with the Division of Local Services, Legal Services. So when the town adopted the sewer program, the sewer enterprise in the 90s, that was mandatory because sewer,
No.
what?
When they first adopted it, it was not mandatory.
Okay.
But they then changed that.
Yeah, because
And
the
a
Board of
group of
Health
us-
regulated a fee.
Correct.
Right, right.
You know, so they didn't have enough. So just a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, no, so from what I've learned from legal counsel,
Yep.
because trash is a optional service,
Okay,
The town does not have the opportunity to make it mandatory. So it will remain a voluntary opt-out program.
great.
Yeah. To those who choose to opt out, the Board of Health now, and has done so for many years, they approve a list of permitted haulers that is published on our website every year, and residents would certainly be encouraged to select their own hauler if they felt that that was a better opportunity for them. So that doesn't change, but you could do that now, even with the service that the town has. If you didn't like Republic, you could certainly contract with your own provider.
Correct.
So that won't change.
Nope. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Gary. So that brings us through the spring, and then things start getting serious. In May, we will have narrowed down the users for the program. The resident manifest will be created and supplied to the company that we're procuring the carts from. The carts will be, I guess, shipped to in a large, actually from what I understand from interviewing a lot of these companies, they will drive them out in the big 18-wheeler trucks, and then they will work with a local distributor like a U-Haul or Enterprise for the smaller trucks, and they will use the manifest that we have provided them to go out and distribute the carts to your individual homes. That would happen in June with the understanding that come July 1 is when we would begin the cart side. Each cart will have a serial number. It'll be assigned to your home. Although it is yours for the duration of the time that you live in your home, it will belong to the town of West Boylston. And if you were to move, you would leave your cart there for the next user. Presumably, whatever home you were, or town that you were moving to, they would have a cart there waiting for you. Program begins. We do plan to issue that first quarterly bill up front. This would be a pay ahead. That is a necessity because the Republic and the Casellas of the world will want to know that the town of West Boylston will continue to pay their bills with a quarterly billing system. That will be important that we're sort of staying ahead of that cash flow issue with a due date of 7/31, and then the billing schedule will stay on track for the next year and going forward. That concludes the plan. I'm happy to take all the additional questions.
Just had a question. You said the cart for the recycling was 96 gallons?
Mm-hmm.
So is that still once a week with the trash, or is that going to
Yeah.
be moved out, or
No.
it's still the same? Okay.
Still the same. So the collections, we don't anticipate any changes to the collection system and the schedule that exists now. Whatever you have, whatever we have with Republic will stay in place. It just, instead of putting trash out on the curb in bags, they'll be in a cart.
That you expect approximately 2,200 folks to sign up for this. But
Well,
what's,
I expect, the math, to opt out. I expect about 1,100 people to
Well,
decide that they don't want to
whatever
participate.
number you're expecting, I'm wondering if you're taking into account the following possibility. What if two neighbors decide they will both have pay-as-you-throw bags, but they'll share the two, and so you'll lose that $30 in revenue from I don't know how many people might decide to take that route.
So that
Can
is
you prevent
something
that? Can you prevent that?
That's something that will be addressed in the adopt policy and approve fee
Sure.
section of the program.
I don't know how you stop it, though. I mean, you're going to have police out there checking to make sure people aren't...
I sincerely hope that it doesn't come to that.
Okay.
Had a great presentation. Question, will all those who are currently under the trash program being picked up, by Republic today
Mhm.
be eligible for this service? So there will be no one who is currently getting trash collection that will not get it? Is that correct?
With 98% certainty, I can say that. Because I have not looked at that manifest that Republic is currently using, I don't know if there's, so we know, for example, that there may be facilities in town that are owned by a group that is in the residents that are living in that set of houses are currently getting their trash picked up at no cost from the town because the property taxes are paying for that service. When we move to a fee-based service, I don't know how that property owner would manage those residences. I don't know if they would continue to pay for the service on behalf of those residents, or if those residents would be required to sign up on their own. So I think that there's going to be some case-by-case scenarios that we're going to have to work through.
Okay. So, but for example, like an apartment building
Right.
that's got, 80 units, that's currently not being picked up, so, and
They will
no-
not
no
be
intention
eligible,
of-
right. We would maintain that an apartment building that has 3 units or less would be eligible. That's your current policy.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Mark Frieden, I have a question on that one.
Yeah.
Would the apartment with 3 units have 3 carts or 1 cart? And one $30 fee or 3 $30 fees?
It would be per unit, so it would be 3 carts, 3 trash carts, 3 recycling carts, and 3 bills.
Okay. Next question was about carts that are at our house. 2 carts now, they're big.
Mhm.
What's our responsibility for them? Can we leave them out and not worry about what happens to them?
Please don't. So,
Okay.
but I think that will address that through the policy. So we know because I've authorized my fair share of mailbox replacements in my career. We know that things happen when things get too close to the curb, and we would have to address that. Whether there's a provision there that states that the trash container the trash pickup was on a Tuesday and the incident happened on a Thursday and the property owner didn't bring their cart back from the curb. Those are the types of details that we'll get into the weeds. But until I get that vote on October 20th, I don't think it's a little premature to really get into that. But it is definitely something on the list. Hi, Ray.
First of all, thanks for pushing through your phobia and putting the presentation together. I think this was very helpful. But
You know it is a phobia.
so now to speak for big trash,
Yeah.
for people that are large users and have more than 1 cart worth of trash each month, will they be able to purchase a second cart?
They will.
And will they pay twice the monthly fee because they're getting twice as much trash?
I don't know what the fee will be because that is a program detail that we'll address. But yes, it'll be, I anticipate that it'll be substantially more than the first cart because we will be paying for more than twice the trash. And we also don't want to have every household have a line of carts. And if we don't make that fee somewhat higher, that's my fear. So yes, there will be a provision for those of you who use more than one cart. The Republic has made it very clear in their contract that the practice of snow coning will be disallowed. So stacking your trash up on top of your container is not going to be allowed. But come on, something hard. No one stumped me. Okay, Chris. All right, I'm ready.
So, you mentioned that sewer was mandated because it was a health issue.
No, it was because once the town put the sewer in, it became a mandatory connection. And that was a decision that the town made through its regulatory process. From what I understand, because trash can never be, is never a mandatory service that the town has to provide. And this, I'm taking this language directly from my conversation with town council. The town does not have the option to make it a mandatory service.
Okay, so it could not be looked upon as a health necessity because you could have a neighbor that's stashing.
So the Board of Health has current regulations for exactly that. It would be managed through the Board of Health, through their existing regulations. It would not be managed through the solid waste enterprise.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, for sure. You can't, you know, there are Board of Health regulations. There's specifically state CMRs as well as local regulations that we would employ to address those concerns.
Okay, so a follow-up, which is not related to that, but related to an earlier question. So I can opt in and opt out of this program.
Mm-hmm.
How frequently can I do that? It seems like that would be kind of a
So,
nightmare.
so we know that especially in year one, as we're all learning a new skill, and we're learning a new billing software and service, we know that Republic has the capacity to pivot, you know, to pick up one week and not pick up the next. However, how often the town is able to pivot is going to be something that we have to work through. I anticipate doing this, having a, and it also goes to the staffing. You know, what we decide to do as far as bolstering the staff that is going to be managing the billing portion of this.
So stay tuned.
Yes, stay tuned. But so just like people that decide that maybe they're not going to pay their bill in the first quarter, you know, what is the policy going to be there, and how long can we reasonably allow that to be a thing before we discontinue service? And those are types of policy decisions that we'll certainly be looking at.
So, but from a financial standpoint, the bill payment is less of a worry because this is a municipal enterprise. You are actually able to lien the property, correct?
Correct.
If
So
it's unpaid?
So going back to the cash flow analysis, which was another phobia of mine that I got over, we will be carrying a small balance going forward that provides us a little bit of a safety net. However, if on an annual basis we will be looking, and if people are in the arrears, we will have no choice but to do the same as we do with sewer or other municipal defaults and lien that property.
Thank you.
But certainly giving, especially in the beginning where this is brand new to people, I don't anticipate this becoming, you know, a trash. Yeah, there's lots of room for all of us to learn and educate ourselves and get comfortable with this program before we start that process. Yeah.
Mark Frieden, sort of a follow-up to that. If you were to turn somebody on or their service on or off, do we anticipate that would change the cost of anything? I mean, maybe a little bit of weight, like a couple of bags worth of weight, that's it?
So I think that when we go back and look at the past few years, we've been pretty consistent with our, I mean, I'm obviously projecting, but, and I did go back to 22 and 23, and we were in that 1,500 zone. I don't expect it to be that much of an impact. I think the majority of residents, and this could be just me being overly optimistic, are going to, should this be approved at town meeting, are going to be putting out the same amount of trash next year as they did this year, and hopefully paying their fair share.
But the cost of the program wouldn't change.
No, the cost of the program.
If 3 or 4 people don't.
No. Again, having built in, choosing the number $30 was mostly to protect the town from some fluctuations in the amount of trash that we throw out versus the amount of money that we're collecting. Projecting 4 3/4 years ahead to maintain that rate was a priority for me. And a lot of the reason was I managing increases $1 here and $1, that having that adjustment is just as challenging on town staff as it would be for residents.
And I think I know the answer to this question, but is there any subsidizing ability of the town just in case things are a little bit wonky?
You mean for residents to subsidize residents?
No, like if like, I don't know, you only have 2,000 people.
Oh.
Could the town say, well, we'll get it back, we think for some reason we didn't give them carts or whatever, I don't know what the reason would be. We think this is coming back, could the town help just sort of sustain the program through until it comes back?
The Division of Local Services has 3 has 3 enterprise models. One of them includes a town subsidy. And we would know as we're preparing for the May town meeting and preparing budgets, we would be looking at whether or not this program requires a town subsidy or if, as projected, it's self-sufficient.
I'm not sure if this qualifies as a difficult question, but I'll give it a go. You showed that the hauling costs are going from, I think you said $86 to $125, which would be nominally a 50% increase. But the actual costs for hauling only look like they go up about 15%. Is there a large baseline cost to operate the program, and then there's a variable cost for the tonnage on top of that? The numbers look a little strange to me. So from 25 to 26, you're saying the rate's going up 50%, but these numbers are only going up 15%.
So that is a difficult question.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Check.
So what I did is I calculated it out that in FY26, and again, you got to keep in mind too that Casella's rate increase will be half year. So I used the actuals and I freezed the tonnage at 1550 and just calculated it out. I mean, I can, you and I can sit down and look at the math.
Okay, it looks like it's just a mid-year split because FY27 is about 50% increase.
Yeah, I mean, so the Casella pricing changes on January 1 as opposed to the way we track tonnage, which is by the fiscal year. I don't know if that explains it, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just one suggestion, the ability for residents to turn their trash service on and off is a much more complicated than it would seem on its surface. And
but I don't know how we would, without making it mandatory, which we've been told we cannot, I don't know how we prevent that.
no, but you could say it's it's a once a year. Every year you get to choose in or out versus every quarter or any other
I'll look
period.
into whether.
A suggestion.
Certainly that would make it easier. I don't know if it's something that I can do legally. So I will certainly look into it.
All right, follow up my other question. The program that's on the warrant, is that the subsidized or the non-subsidized, or doesn't it matter? It's one program?
I am so glad, Greg, that you brought this clicker. It is a straightforward vote to adopt the MGL that allows us to create the enterprise fund. There's no budgeting model included.
So if we figure out that, we don't have to change anything? That
We
need
don't
the
have to
sub-
change anything. So as we work through our FY27 budgeting, that's when we would be making decisions whether or not there's a subsidy.
Something was just said a few minutes ago, got me thinking, what about people who are snowbirds and spend 6 months down in Florida, or during the summer, 3 months in Maine or whatever, and aren't here? Can they turn it on and off?
So I think that's exactly what the question I need to get clarification on. I think ultimately, yes, they will be able to, but to
Yeah.
Ray's point, I think it's worth asking whether or not I can still collect and not pick up their trash.
Right, okay.
Because that's certainly a financial win for me.
This is a non-financial question. I would think, just a suggestion, can you go back to the slide that shows the cart size?
So I want to point out that these cart sizes are dictated to us from Republic. We don't have, unless we renegotiate that contract.
I would just think that the bigger one would be the trash and the smaller one would be the recycle. That's set in stone?
That is what is in our contract with Republic. Which is the point. Which is the point. Yeah. That's the point. Other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you very much for letting me go through this. This is a really good practice. Are these, let me ask a question, are these too many slides for town meeting?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Then I'll look for some guidance as to which ones I can take out. Yeah, okay.
And really easy question. Do you plan to do this immediately before the article or under Article 1?
The request, I think, in front of the select board was that I would do this under Article 1, reports to town meeting. However, I will be there for the duration of the meeting, so whether I speak under Article 1 or Article 4 is really at the pleasure of the select board and the moderator. Hey, and this has been 6 months. 6 months I've graduated. Yeah. I've brought a very challenging May town meeting issues to you all, and now I'm doing it again in October, and I appreciate everybody's support and at least your willingness to consider the option. I do think it's a good one because it does provide that the assurance that we don't discuss trash at town meeting anymore, ever. I cannot say the same for chickens. Those still remain in play.
That's the biggest question on Facebook.
I know, I am well aware, But that question cannot be enterprised, so it will stay in play.
Can I ask a question about the meeting itself?
Of course, that's what we're here for. Yeah.
Will the meeting start on time if there's a quorum?
Unfortunately, I don't have the authority to say yes or no to that. That is a moderator question.
Okay. How do
So
we get that
the moderator
question?
the moderator controls town meeting.
Yeah.
It is by law their meeting to begin when they feel it's appropriate to begin.
But isn't it appropriate to begin when if it's going to begin at 6 and you have a quorum, is it not then appropriate to start?
If the moderator says so, Don.
And if he doesn't say so?
If he doesn't, it is his meeting.
And is there a cutoff time? Like
It's the same-
12 or 1 in the
same-
morning?
So that becomes a moderator question, but it is also within the, on the state's website, and I'm happy to post it on our website, the Citizens Guide to Town Meeting, that there's some good, helpful information about how to move questions, how to call the question, those types of motions that
Okay.
residents can make or that voters can make that would prompt.
Yeah, I was
those
going to say, is that
decisions.
something that instead of being the purview of one person, can the town vote on such a thing? And if so, how does one
Yep.
create that vote?
I'm happy to, I can email it to you directly, but I will also put it on the website so that people can read that in advance.
Okay.
But it is by law, you elect a moderator, and it is the moderator's responsibility to run that meeting. And, John does a great job. I know we put out the town meeting survey, and I think the majority of survey results that we received back spoke to that issue. And, we've certainly provided those results to the moderator for his consideration.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously, the meeting I'm talking about. It trains people to not be on time.
I think part of the issue in May was that we were not checking in people as quickly as we needed to, that there was a very long line. And I think that there was a strong desire by the moderator to make sure that people that were in line at 6 p.m. Were able to get into the building and sit down before the voting started.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't think there's any one right answer to answer that question, but I know that.
I do, but okay.
Yeah. So
I mean,
I know-
I think that
yeah.
if it starts at 6 and you have a quorum, you start.
Yeah.
And it should have a cutoff.
Yeah.
That when it went beyond midnight was absurd. But that's just me.
Yeah. So
Maybe not just me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you live in town, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is duly noted, and I think that the town clerk's office is taking steps to increase the number of people that she has working at check-in, and we are looking at increasing the number of those polling pads, the devices that we check people in with. So we're going to do the best we can to improve that flow.
How often does the moderator get elected?
I believe it's in every 3 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of moderators. I think John does a great job. I know that the last town meeting was a challenge to get people in and get seated, but anyway. Okay.
We're all
you.
entitled to our opinion.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. But we keep putting questions like this on the warrant, and we don't have that problem, right?
Yeah, just a suggestion, years ago, the town clerk had a PowerPoint presentation of frequently asked questions about town meetings. And they would put that slide up a half an hour before the town meeting started, and it would go, what is an override? And it would explain, what is this, what is that?
Mhm.
So people come in and go, oh, okay, that's something to think about.
Okay, thank you.
On the town moderator, again, I don't know exactly when this applies to what bylaws or whatever, but my understanding is that if you could get a majority of the town, the members present to override the town administrator's, the town moderator's decision about when he decides to start the meeting, you can overrule the moderator on those kinds of questions. Of course, it's very difficult to do. But my question has to do is, what is a quorum? You don't know how many people you got, so how do you know when there's not even such a thing as a quorum. You just make a subjective call that, well, we see 200 people here and that's enough. It's 100?
Yeah.
Okay,
But
in this
at-
town, it's 100, okay.
And certainly, as we're checking people in, we're keeping track of that count.
But what I'm saying is there's a long line outside, there's 400 people waiting, and because of this, slowness of the check-in process. Well, at what point? You could theoretically say, I'm gonna stop at 100, or I'm gonna wait till we get 300 and then go. I mean,
It's entirely the moderator's call when he calls that meeting to order.
and of course, once you call it to order, you can still bring in more people, correct?
Correct.
So,
But I will say that the reason that this is going to be a concern this year or in October is because they have, the select board has ordered the warrant so that I guess the two most deliberated articles, which will be Article 3 and Article 4 presumably, will be heard early. And so there'll be a strong desire to make sure that as many people are in and seated before they get started.
And-
Nobody wants to vote on prior year fiscal bills.
Right, and I hate to say it, but I think what happened this past May is going to be happening more frequently, because first of all, we'll have this on the May warrant, and then
No,
we'll be...
this will be resolved in October. You will not have this on the May warrant.
Okay, all right. But in May, you're doing a feasibility study on the schools, for the schools department?
That'll also be the October meeting. The feasibility study expenditure is Article 3 on the October town meeting warrant.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe we don't have to do anything in May. We'll
Yeah.
get it all done.
Well, I kind of doubt it.
No.
I think we're going to be getting more of these
Yeah,
kinds of things.
yeah. I totally agree with you that a town meeting, we're getting to a point where the budgets are so tight and there's so few dollars to go around that all of the decisions become very, very important. And I think West Boylston is very fortunate that you have as many people come out for your town meetings to participate in that vote. That says a tremendous a lot about, getting tired. That says a lot about your community and your commitment and your investment in it. So look at it as a try, even though it's frustrating and people get impatient, try to look at it as a positive. Thank you. Okay, I'm done. Good night.